Need your daily fix of women's mixed martial arts? From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. Be in the loop, cause Golden State Media Concepts got you covered. Get your fix in women's MMA. We've got you covered on Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMc Women's MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMc Podcast Network. I am your host, Arnel De Leon. I hope your day is going well, as I will cover currently the most talked about fights from the recent UFC 248, and we'll go over some new MMA news. Joanna Jędrzejczyk vs. Weili Zhang from UFC 248 so far is in the running for the best fight of the year. The first title fight between Jon Jones and Alexander Gustafsson back in 2013 for the UFC light heavyweight title is being inducted to the Hall of Fame as the greatest title fight ever in the organization. Joanna Jędrzejczyk vs. Weili Zhang for the women's strawweight title is already one of the greatest title fights in UFC history. One could argue that it probably is the most exciting and exhilarating women's fight of all time. And a card full of really good fights, the fact that basically everyone, including some of my friends who don't even watch UFC, or any combat sports, were able to go out of their way to watch this fight online. There will always be MMA purists out there who will watch all the shows, but if a fight or a fighter was so entertaining that a casual who doesn't even follow the sport at all decides to, you know what? This is really cool. I'm gonna start watching now. That right there is true star power. So let's talk about the fight itself. When analyzing Joanna versus Weili, the per round stats favored Joanna more, which kind of surprised me. But, by the way, the numbers, even though the numbers are laid out in a way that does favor Joanna, the eye test also serves as a way for judges to understand on who really won the fight. So, the fight wasn't as even as we thought based on the numbers, but based on the eye test, the story is very different. So, round 1, Weili landed 30 of 76 significant strikes. Joanna landed 30 of 64 significant strikes. Round 1 could have gone either way. Both fighters still testing each other out. It could have gone either person winning that round. Round 2, Weili landed 20 of 65 significant strikes, while Joanna landed 32 of 62 significant strikes. At this point, Joanna started to land more mix-ups in the exchanges, ending in a combination with either a body kick or a leg kick, while Weili would poke her opponent with the leg kicks that wasn't doing all that much. She would go in, go for a leg kick, then walk back out, while Joanna Jędrzejczyk would go for a 1-2, then end with a leg kick or a body kick. Round 3 was Weili landing 38 of 73 significant strikes. Joanna landed 38 of 76 significant strikes. So either girl could have won that round. Round 4, Weili landed 40 of 91 significant strikes, while Joanna landed 40 of 79 strikes. Weili might have won this round though, due to the higher volume of strike attempts, which impresses the judges contrary to whether or not they land or not. Round 5, Weili landed 37 of 103 significant strikes, while Joanna landed 46 of 79 significant strikes. So both fighters landed the exact same number of significant strikes through 3 different rounds, though Joanna did land more strikes in the second and 5th round. Also, Joanna landed 10% more body shots and connected with 51% of our total strikes compared to Weili Zhang's 40%. I predicted Joanna would attempt a higher volume of strikes than Weili, but according to the numbers, Joanna, if you were to look at striking efficiency and landed, she should have won the fight based purely on just the numbers alone. Many of the judges went to that final round going in as a tiebreaker. This reminded me of when Dominic Cruz fought against Cody Garbrandt. The numbers showed that Dominic Cruz was winning that fight because he overall landed more strikes than Cody. But if you actually watch the fight between Cody Garbrandt and Dominic Cruz, you would know that Cody Garbrandt was obviously winning the fight. Yes, Dominic Cruz would go land in some leg kicks or body kicks and go for a 5-punch hit combo. But, so while Cruz is landing more volume of strikes, Cody Garbrandt would counter hit with only like 2 punches. And those 2 punches, although were just 2 compared to Dominic Cruz like 5 or 7, those 2 punches meant a lot more because he would always stagger Dominic Cruz with a very small combination. I had a sparring match with my brother years back when we both did boxing, and he shredded me with a lot of body shots and combinations. I was kind of rope-a-doping a little bit. I came to the fight being like, you know what? I'm gonna make every punch I do count for something. I'm not gonna throw for high volume. I'm gonna make sure that every punch I throw means something and it's gonna hit very, very hard. I'm not gonna go for a ton of jabs. I'm gonna go for uppercuts and hooks. So I landed this one huge hook to him, to the head, that dazed him, and we had to stop shortly thereafter. So he was going at me, throwing out all these combinations, and I just do a 3-hit combo, and off in a hook, and he was dazed and confused, and after a couple seconds, we had to stop. So yes, he had the higher volume of strikes, but I had the more meaningful impact in my punches. So his 10 punches, in terms of numbers, meant more than my 3 punches, but my 3 punches obviously did more damage. So, despite Joanna being an elite level striker, her punches and kicks, like throughout her entire career, don't carry as much weight to it as the opponents that she's lost to. So, Joanna may hit you with 3 to 5 perfect jabs to the face, but when Rosa Namajunas or Valentina Shevchenko or a Weili Zhang connects a combination, there's an obvious distinction of who is hurting more after an exchange. Joanna's swelling on the forehead didn't help her case, but the deciding factor on who won the fight largely depends on what you perceive to be important when judging the fight. Are you going to reward Joanna for landing more strikes and having better mix-ups, or do you reward Weili Zhang for her high volume and power shots? In this instance, the judges favored Weili. But if you swap out the judges, then it is understandable for Joanna to win the fight. It could have gone either way, and it won't be surprising if there was a rematch down the line. But yeah, the fight was absolutely amazing, really exciting, and after seeing the Yoel Romero versus Israel Adesanya fights, it only made you further appreciate how much effort was being put into the fight between Joanna and Weili Zhang. Because I remember during the Yoel Romero fight and the Israel Adesanya fight, the commentary team, like specifically Joe Rogan, was like, oh man, these fans, the people who are watching from TV or in the stadium who are booing this Adesanya versus Yoel Romero fight, man, it's very exciting. What are you talking about? You guys have been spoiled from how great Weili Zhang versus Joanna was. After the Joanna versus Weili Zhang fights, the commentary team was like, oh man, that was an exciting fight, but wait until you see this fight, and the crowd were jazzed up. They were even more excited for the main event than they were for the co-main event. The co-main event excited them, gave a lot of momentum carrying over. They're like, oh man, that fight was awesome, and I didn't expect much from that fight. This fight between Adesanya and Yoel Romero, that fight is going to be even more awesome because I have higher expectations from that fight. The narrative behind UFC 248 wasn't which had the better fights. Which was the better fight? Was the Weili Zhang versus Joanna fight better than the main events? Or was the main event between Yoel Romero and Adesanya better than the co-main events? And unanimously, everybody and anybody, from my friends to my coworkers, all say that the Joanna Jędrzejczyk fight versus Weili Zhang fight was unanimously, so far, the best fight of the year. And when I look back onto the news that Gustafsson and John Jones are going to go to the Hall of Fame, for their first fight, their second fight wasn't all that much really, but the first fight was amazing. And I felt like this Joanna versus Weili Zhang fight was also amazing. So looking back, I would love to see a rematch from these two more than anything else. It really could have gone either way. So one of my friends talked about, me and my friends were talking about this. We're like, how do you judge someone winning a fight? And the argument is, okay, if somebody is kicking your butt in a fight for 25 minutes, but in the 26 minute mark, in this 1 minute span, the person who is losing ends up winning the end, then who do you really decide is the winner of the fight? Is it the person with their hands raised, or is it the person who is beating on their opponent the most? So, Joanna was beating on their opponent the most, but she walked away with her face all messed up. When you watch boxing, how a lot of people judge on who won fights is based on how they look. So while Joanna had this huge swelling on her face, she looked very, very different. All my friends were like, oh man, I don't watch UFC, but I saw her face before and after, guessed that she lost the fight. And they were right in that they guessed that the woman who had her face swollen up did lose the fight. But upon further analyzing the fight and analyzing the numbers and seeing how it went, it was a very, very close fight that could have gone either way. And I think if Joanna's face didn't swell up as much, or she didn't walk away looking like how she did, the judges would favor her a lot more. In the end, it was an amazing fight, one of the best fights I've ever watched and seen. I recommend anybody who hasn't seen the fight between Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk, go look it up somehow, order the pay-per-view again, bring your friends, go grab pizza, because it really is a worthwhile fight that I think anybody should see. And if you guys are thinking, well, women's MMA is not my thing, I recommend, okay, here's the thing, go watch Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk, then go watch Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero, and you're gonna have a better appreciation of the fighters of Weili Zhang, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and the rest of the strawweight division. After the short break, we will look at what's in store for the future of the women's strawweight division. This is Arnel De Leon coming right after the break.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMc MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMcpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMcpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. This is Arnel De Leon recapping the Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk title fight at UFC 248. Now, before the commercial break, I talked about a potential rematch between the two considering how close of a fight it was. It could have gone either way, but Joanna isn't the only one vying for a title match. As of March 2020, the current women's strawweight division stands as it is. Champion Weili Zhang. Number 1 ranked Jessica Andrade. Number 2, Rose Namajunas. Number 3, Tatiana Suarez. Number 4, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Number 5, Nina Ansaroff. Number 6, Claudia Gadelha. Number 7, Carla Esparza. Number 8, Michelle Waterson. Number 9, Marina Rodriguez. Number 10, Cynthia Calvillo. Number 11, Yan Shanyan. Number 12, Felice Herrig. Number 13, Tecia Torres. Number 14, Alexa Grasso. And number 15, Angela Hill. What's great about the strawweight division is that it's a very deep division comprised of former champions and title contenders who you can conceivably see fighting in a main event spot in the near future, or should in the future. Jessica Andrade is deserving of a title shot considering that she dominated a great champion in Rose Namajunas. I believe that Jessica Andrade in her fight against Weili Zhang came to the fight a little bit too aggressive and underestimated how strong Weili was. While Rose Namajunas, she's a phenomenal technical boxer, as proven in her fights against Joanna. But you can prep Weili Zhang expecting to have the same advantages that you would have when you face Rose Namajunas. I believe Jessica Andrade in a rematch against Weili Zhang would do much better in the rematch. Jessica Andrade fought way too reckless in the title fights, while Joanna fought smart but didn't do enough in the judges' eyes. So Jessica Andrade in a second outing against Weili Zhang would do much more better and be a very close fight. Rose Namajunas was originally offered the fight to fight Weili instead of Joanna, and it was originally going to be Rose Namajunas versus Weili Zhang for the strawweight belt, the co-main event at UFC 248, but that didn't happen. Rose declined the fight, citing that she didn't feel like she was ready to fight again and be placed on the spotlight. Rose Namajunas, I believe, is in the same position as Darren Till was when he was prepping up against Kevin Gastelum. just like Darren Till, she developed this sense of like invulnerability that's, oh man, she's being skyrocketed by the UFC. She has a bunch of momentum carrying over. She, like she is pretty much like breaded to become the next big superstar for the UFC. Darren Till, how he was during his rise when he was undefeated, was so confident. He was out there cutting these promos. When he talked in interviews, he really believed that he was the best. And then after losing to Tyron Woodley, and then in the fight leading up to Kelvin Gastelum, Darren Till came off as a person who's been very humbled, and he's no longer the guy who's like, I'm the best, I can go fight anybody, anytime, I got the heart of a champion, to, hey, I'm Darren Till, I will do my best to win the fights, I know I'm good, all I have to do is come to the fight with a smart game plan. He went to this hungry lion fighter who's like, I'm gonna go beat anybody, to, you know what? I gotta go fight smarts. I gotta change. I gotta reshift my focus on how I look and perceive myself in fights. I gotta come into fights with a better strategy. Darren Till has shifted his perception and his identity in the UFC because the fact that he lost to Tyron Woodley really shook them. And Rose Namajunas, I believe she lost her self-confidence after the Jessica Andrade fight, and she needs more time to develop back that confidence that Darren Till got back after fighting Kelvin Gastelum. Now, I know MMA and basketball are two very different sports right now, but I would play pickup games of basketball in the gym, and after I played a really bad game, to which I would play a really bad game, I would then disappear, go out to the restroom, take drink some water, walk around for a while after the game. Because it is so nerve-wracking that when you know you're really good at something, then after losing, you have to take the humble pill. And it's a really tough pill to swallow, because in basketball, I think I'm really good in the game. I can beat all my friends, I can go play really well against random people and pick up basketball and do well for myself. But in a game to which I am not doing good for myself, and I gotta be like, I gotta like think back and be like, wow, apparently I'm not as good as I think I am. And there's a lot of pride in that you just have to like peter yourself down, and it takes a while. It's kind of crushing. You're kind of heartbroken knowing that after years of practicing your craft, you're still not as good as you think you are. It's a huge ego hit. You take a huge ego hit, and apparently Rose Namajunas is saying that she doesn't enjoy fighting anymore. So this reminds me a lot of Tyron Woodley. It's like Tyron Woodley said that he doesn't enjoy fighting anymore. Even Ben Askren says he doesn't enjoy fighting. Chael Sonnen says he doesn't enjoy fighting. But they all say they don't enjoy fighting after losing a big fight. So I don't really believe it. Because prior to them losing their major fights, they were red hot. They wanted to win a championship. They wanted to win every fight. They came in with a lot of confidence in all their fights, and then this one major loss happened, and all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I actually never enjoyed fighting in the first place. And Rose Namajunas saying that she doesn't enjoy fighting anymore, I believe she lost her smile. Because this contrast with her 2.5 years ago, when she would go to the gym smiling, having fun fighting, there would be like UFC vlogs about like her journey in the gym and like her coaches, and in interviews she would talk with so much confidence, and she would hype herself up, and she would keep smiling. She said that she enjoyed fighting in the gym, she enjoyed sparring, she enjoyed like all like the hoopla and spotlights. She was prepped up ready for that second fight against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She was in it to win it, a lot of confidence, and now So really, it is a matter of time until we see Rose Namajunas gain back that confidence, because everyone knows that she has the skills, she has the tools and the ability to become a champion yet again. It would be amazing. It would be an automatic main event if it's Rose Namajunas versus Weili Zhang. Though we got a former champion who defeated the greatest strawweight champion of all time, the greatest women's strawweight champion of all time. We got Weili Zhang, who's en route to being the best, considering that she's in the most competitive field she's ever in the women's strawweight division. So we got two people making their stake in the claim for being the best in the division. They're both very young. Rose Namajunas is like 27. Weili Zhang's 30. They are in the peak of their prime. They're in their peak condition right now. And we are seeing the best. We have seen the best version of Rose Namajunas, and we can see her get better. And we've seen Weili Zhang. She can also get a lot better. That's why they're both being branded That's why when Rose was a champion, she was like 25, 24 years old. She was branded as a future main big star, like Conor McGregor levels of leading the UFC to the next generation. She's only 27. Now, all that momentum has carried over to Weili Zhang. And Weili Zhang and Rose Namajunas fighting each other would be a fun match. It'd be a great narrative. Two fighters being branded as the chosen ones for the division after Ronda Rousey is gone, after like Joanna Jędrzejczyk losing her belt. It would be a great narrative to watch. And also the fighting would be great. I think Rose Namajunas has a chance against Weili Zhang if the two were to fight. Another fighter who could potentially be making big moves by the end of this year or early mid next year. She's not a big fighter right now, but it's Tatia Soares. As of right now, she currently is on an 8-fight win streak and is going undefeated. She's been submitting people. She's been knocking girls out. She's got a great background in like world championships in like wrestling, amateur wrestling. She's got great pedigree for ground-based, mat wrestling. Her striking leaves a lot to be left desired though, but if her wrestling ability is really, really good, which it is, then it's a good way to compensate for it. So she has a unique skill set that separates her from most fighters in the division. She's the only fighter amongst the top contenders in the division that could wrestle in an elite level. Now, I'm not discrediting Jessica Andrade and Claudia Gadelha with their wrestling. Joanna Jędrzejczyk is one of the best defensive wrestlers in the game so far right now. The only thing holding her back is that she doesn't have the star power like the others, because Jessica Andrade, former champion, Tecia Torres, like even Tecia Torres is lower in the rankings right now. I think she's about 14 right now. So even though Tecia Torres isn't all that high ranked, she still has a bigger name than Tatia Soares. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, greatest women's champion of all time. Coming up after the break, we will look into the women's bantamweight division and the situation that is of Amanda Nunes becoming a double champion. This is Arnel De Leon coming back right after the break.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMc Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMcpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMcpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. This is Arnel De Leon. You are listening to the GSMc Women's MMA Podcast. I am Arnel De Leon, discussing the status of the women's strawweight division. I talked about how stacked the division was, with multiple women who can conceivably be seen as the champion. Amanda Nunes, on top of all that, is the champion for both the women's bantamweight and featherweight division. I look at the content. Okay, so before I talk about the bantamweight division, let's look at the featherweight division with fighters like Felicia Spencer, who is going to fight Amanda Nunes next. Megan Anderson, Zara Dos Santos. I am happy for Felicia Spencer getting a title fight against Nunes. She's worked hard. If Felicia Spencer wins this fight, then this might be the biggest upset ever in the history of the UFC. However, Amanda Nunes' run as featherweight champion doesn't have a lot to be desired, sadly enough. So, okay, my own viewpoints of someone being a double champion. So, the concept of the champion versus champion fight is really great, but the after effects of someone being a double champion like honestly, it's enjoyable when I see like Chris Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes. The truth is that Nunes and Cyborg they don't really, only one of them really needed a belt, really. It didn't matter if, the concept of nobody cared about that it was Amanda Nunes a champion versus Chris Cyborg a champion. People were interested in the fact that it was Amanda Nunes versus Chris Cyborg and there was a championship belt at stake. That was a selling point. That really was a true selling point that won people over. They didn't really care that it was featherweight champion versus bantamweight champion. Not really, because when you look at the women's pound for pound rankings right now, how many of the fighters are high ranked in the women's pound for pound list who are part of the featherweight division? And this list pretty much shows which division is the most stacked one, or which is the one that people should be looking out for. So, number one best fighter, pound for pound in the UFC, is Amanda Nunes, double champion, one of the most dominant champions ever, considered one of the best, probably the best, considering it's either her or Joanna Jędrzejczyk are considered the two greatest champions in the history of the women's divisions. So number one, Amanda Nunes, double champion, good for her. Number two, Weili Zhang. She's the number two best fighter across all women in the UFC. Number three, Valentina Shevchenko. Makes sense. So far, the top three fighters who are considered the best women's pound for pound fighters are three champions. One of them holding two belts. Number four, Jessica Andrade. Number five, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Number six, Rose Namajunas. Number seven, Tatia Soares. Alright. Up to this point, I just named the top 7 ranked women's pound for pound fighters. So, can somebody explain to me why is it that there's 5 people representing the strawweight division in the top ranking so far? And here's the thing. So, there are 5 fighters who are considered the best among the top 7 who represent one division. And now we have Amanda Nunes who represents 2 divisions, but neither contender of those 2 divisions are representative so far in the top 7. And now at number 8 we have Holly Holm. And number 9, Germaine de Randamie. Number 10, Aspen Ladd. So far, we have 2 fighters representing the flyweight division. The 2 best fighters in the flyweight division are Aspen Ladd, Valentina Shevchenko. They make up 2 out of the top 10 spots. Then we have Germaine de Randamie, Holly Holm, and Amanda Nunes representing the top 3 spots for the bantamweight division. So far, there's no one. There is nobody who is representative of the featherweight division. We got Caitlin Chugian, ranked number 11, not part of the featherweight division. You have Jessica Ai, not part of the featherweight division. So, we have Claudia Gadelha, Nina Arsenov. Julia Pena is up there, but she represents the bantamweight division. So far there are only 2 flyweight, there's only 2 people representing the flyweight representation of the top 15. There is 1 person representing the featherweight division, and that is Amanda Nunes, who's currently holding 2 belts, and there's about 4 or 5 people representing the bantamweight division. So at this point, what is the point of the women's featherweight division? Because when I look at Amanda Nunes right now, her next big opponent should be Germaine de Randamie again, because that was a close fight. It could have gone either way, and that was the fight that Amanda Nunes got a lot of flack for, because for one, she was actually being outstriked during the stand-up game. She was struggling. That was the most she's ever struggled with in a fight, was against Germaine de Randamie. So why isn't it Germaine de Randamie, who is a top-ranked pound-for-pound fighter throughout all women's division, not fighting against Amanda Nunes? Instead, we're gonna get Felicia Spencer, who's not even that high ranked among all women in all the divisions combined together. Why is she fighting against Amanda Nunes? That to me, I'm gonna sound so bad if in hindsight 2020, Felicia somehow beats Amanda Nunes right now. But with the way how it currently is going right now, it doesn't logically make sense for Felicia Spencer to go and face against Amanda Nunes, other than the fact that Amanda Nunes has a belt that represents the division that, for the most part, isn't that prioritized or people really don't care about. Because when you look at when I look at the featherweight division, it really should just be merged with the women's bantamweight division, because I believe that the women's bantamweight division is much more deeper, and anyone from this division can conceivably beat anyone from the featherweight division, with the exception of Nunes, who's the champion of both divisions. So let's look at the women's bantamweight division right now. So champion Amanda Nunes makes perfect sense, right? So the number one ranked women's bantamweight contender is Germaine de Randamie, who should be facing Amanda Nunes. We might see Randamie versus Nunes again. We have Holly Holm, who my viewpoint on Holly Holm, in that Holly Holm is a great fighter, but does she have the tools to beat Amanda Nunes? I don't really think so. I need to see another good tune-up fight for Holly Holm in order for her to make her case. Aspen Ladd, who I'd place above Holly Holm. If Amanda Nunes somehow surpasses Germaine de Randamie, like she wins the rematch. If Amanda Nunes defeats Felicia, which she's very favored to, if she beats Germaine de Randamie, she should skip over Holly Holm and fight against Aspen Ladd. So it should be Aspen Ladd or Germaine de Randamie fighting against Amanda Nunes coming up. Number 4, you got Juliana Pena. 5, Arvin Aldana. 6, Raquel Pennington. Number 7, Ketan Vieira. Number 8, Yana Kunitskaya. Number 9, Sarah McMahon. Number 10, Marion Renaud. 11, Lena Landsberg. 12, Macy Chesson. 13, Beth Carrillo. Number 14, Nico Mantono. Sorry for this. Nico Mantono. I always think it's Montana. And then number 15, Sijara Eubanks. Nico Montano, who is ranked number 15 here, has only fought once in the past 2 years, because she fought late 2019, and then before that fought mid to late 2017. So Nico Montano, I don't know how deep the bantamweight division is in terms of how many fighters are available who are unranked, but it's weird knowing that Nico Montano is a ranked fighter. I'm waiting for Raquel Pennington to make the next step for her in the division, but she's not being pushed all that far because of the current status of the featherweight division. I expect Sarah McMahon by the end of this year to be a top 5 ranked fighter. Within the bantamweight division, she's not excelling as far as she should because of, featherweight champion Amanda Nunes. There's a lot of complications going on right now that bantamweight division and featherweight division for the women's isn't going as well as it should be, and hopefully in the future, by the end of this year or sometime early next year, both divisions will be a lot more healthier, with Nunes defending just one belt for one division. So, coming up next, right after break, we are gonna dive into some more and new MMA news. Once again, this is Arnel De Leon from the GSMc Women's MMA Podcast. Hope to see you guys soon after the break.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we are back. This is Arnel De Leon from the GSMc Women's MMA Podcast, here to talk about the women's flyweight division. Now, we talked about the bantamweight division and the featherweight division, how Amanda Nunes is pretty much holding on the fort for the featherweight division that doesn't really exist as much because it's kind of a wasteland at this point. What fighters were not given the proper opportunities because Nunes is distracted with the bantamweight division. So there's complications going on with those two divisions. And right now, with the strawweight division having a multitude of fighters competing for the top spots, there is one champion right now who is holding on the fort, and that is the current women's flyweight champion, Valentina Shevchenko. So, looking at the rankings here for the women's flyweight division, we got the current champion, Valentina Shevchenko, who's defended her belt already 4 times successfully. Number 1, Jessica Ai. Number 2, Caitlin Chukagian. Number 3, Joanne Calderwood. Number 4, Jennifer Maya. Number 5, Roxanne Modafferi. Number 6, Lauren Murphy. Number 7, Viviane Araújo. Number 8, Andrea Lee. Number 9, Macy Barber. Number 10, Alexis Davis. Number 11, Montana De La Rosa. Number 12, Antonia Shevchenko. Number 13, Ji-Yoon Kim. Number 14, Molly McCann. Number 15, Polyana Botelho. So the next upcoming fight here for Valentina Shevchenko would be her fighting off against Joanne Calderwood. Joanne Calderwood has won 3 of her last 4 fights. Her last fight was against Andrea Lee, and it was a close one, winning via split decision. And it definitely will be an exciting fight between Calderwood versus Valentina Shevchenko. In the UFC, absolutely anything can happen. Anyone can beat anybody, and it's not far out of the realm of reality to expect Calderwood to possibly win out in this fight in Australia, because the issue with fighting with Valentina Shevchenko is that Shevchenko has almost no holes in her fight game, and I've never seen anyone pick apart Joanna Jędrzejczyk more in a fight than Valentina. It's one thing to get like because for Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk, you want to give him the game plan, and there's a chance that Joanna could go and win. Like if you hear in interviews and how people look at the fights, there are arguments to be made that Joanna Jędrzejczyk defeated Weili Zhang. But when you want to fight Valentina Shevchenko, it was pretty obvious, and it was kind of one-sided in that Valentina Shevchenko won that fight. It was the only time I ever saw Joanna fight somebody who she couldn't figure out. I mean, even in the fights against Rosana Muniz, Joanna Jędrzejczyk would lift her arms up and be like, you know what? I'm still the queen. I'm still the best. I am, in reality, the better fighter. But in this scenario, it wasn't like that for Joanna. She had her head down. She was like, yeah, man, Valentina definitely defeated me. Valentina is long. Her strike game is at an elite level. If she's not trying to head kick you, she can slam you to the ground and work on you with her wrestling. I saw a lot of that in the Joanna fight. I've never seen Joanna been taken advantage of like that in terms of wrestling or in terms of the clinch game. It takes a very special athlete to defeat Valentina, and that one special fighter who has beaten her in the UFC is the current double champion and the pound for pound best women's MMA fighter in the world, Amanda Nunes. The fact that you have to be that good, you have to be in the level of Amanda Nunes in order to defeat Valentina Shevchenko. The fact that Nunes defeated Valentina twice is like astounding. That only shows how great Amanda Nunes is. Now, if Nunes and Valentina Shevchenko were to fight again, I think Shevchenko might be able to win in this third fight, because I have seen more developments with Shevchenko in her past 5 fights than I've seen anyone else. Like Shevchenko currently, I think, has the record for most consecutive wins and most consecutive wins in the flyweight division, and the most title defenses in the flyweight division. And once again, she's knocking people out, she's wrestling people, she's outstriking people. There's not a single hole in her game that she developed in the past 5 fights. While the Amanda Nunes fight the Amanda Nunes fight versus Jermaine Randomay fight kind of exposed some of the weaknesses that Nunes does have, Valentina, it's like, nah, man, like this girl, she's got the complete game. Like, she's almost unbeatable at this point. So it'd be very interesting to see so as of right now, Valentina right now, she's clearing out the division so far. Amanda Nunes is clearing out the division for the featherweight division. So we could potentially see another champion versus champion fight, although I don't like champion versus champion fights off the merit that if one champion wins, the entire division kind of crumbles a little bit, though, because the champion's kind of holding back everything because they got to defend 2 belts in 2 different divisions. Although I'm kind of against that, it would be an interesting fight if it was just Amanda Nunes versus Shevchenko with no belt on the line. Just an exhibition. Who is the better fighter? Who's the better? And if it sounds like that I'm not talking that much about her opponent, Joanne Calderwood, that much, it's because, well, Valentina Shevchenko isn't talking about her opponent that much as well, really, or doesn't see her as that much of a competition. Because according to Sports Illustrated from just one day ago, a month after beating Caitlin Chookagian to defend her title at UFC 247, women's flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko talked to SportsIllustrated.com, to discuss her upcoming fight against Joanne Calderwood at UFC 251 in Australia. And so the fight will be on June 6th. It'll mark Shevchenko's 4th title defense. I think Shevchenko right now is in a 5-fight win streak right now. And if she wins this upcoming fight here, she's going to have 5 consecutive title defenses, which makes her currently if she wins this 5th fight and maintains her title for the 5th time, she might be the most consistent champion among all women's champions right now, because Nunes has two different divisions, while Li Zhang, she's in a very tough division with which the belt can go hot potato. So far, Valentina Shevchenko has said, "I'm very happy that's happening in Australia. We've been in Australia last year for 1 month, visiting different cities, and Perth became one of my favorites, Perth being the city in Australia." Joanne Calderwood is a strong fighter and a well-rounded MMA fighter. Shevchenko also says that, outside of the octagon, the 32-year-old champion is also making an impact in Hollywood, as later this year we'll see her acting debut in Halle Berry's Bruised, which also marks Berry's first film as a director. So the movie deals with a washed-up MMA fighter, Halle Berry, dang, I didn't know that, and her quest to fight again whilst trying to reunite with her 6-year-old son. Shevchenko plays Berry's opponent, but she also co-trained her for that role. So Shevchenko's gonna play as the evil Ivan Drago here, man. Like, Halle Berry is the washed up fighter. She ain't doing all that well. And then she has to come back and fight against Valentina Shevchenko, this like woman who's like taller than her, bigger than her, more skilled than her, has got all the tools, is nearly perfect. And somehow, through hard determination, Halle Berry is gonna go and defeats Valentina Shevchenko in this movie. Okay, I'll accept that in this film here. So Shevchenko says, "We trained 4 hours a day with Halle, training non-stop," says Shevchenko. "She did everything amazing for this movie. She started training MMA, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu. She started everything." Alright then. So Halle Berry is currently training in Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu 2-3 years ago, which I think was the same time that she was filming for the John Wick 3 movie, to which she had to do like arm bars and like arm wrinkles and hurricanranas. And she's now in such a great shape that I can say, not my words, but Valentina Shevchenko says that Halle Berry is in such a great shape that she can be very competition for girls in UFC as well. Now, I don't know if she wants to be a fighter, but she has the skills and a level, and you will see it when the movie is released. So, Valentina Shevchenko, if she's not prepping up to go fight for her opponents, which as of right now, like, filming already ended, so she can prep up against her opponent in Calderwood. So, now I know, Valentina Shevchenko, she's gonna play the Ivan Drago to Halle Berry over here, and she's gonna be this, Valentina Shevchenko is gonna, she's gonna go through an armbar by Halle Berry. By the way, no disrespect to Halle Berry, it's just, she was a little bit too much in the John Wick movie. Cause I just didn't buy her, like, doing, like, spinning elbows and, like, going for, like, for leapfrogs into, like, arm bars and arm ringers and all that stuff. She's doing a lot of, she was doing, like triangle chokes and, like, flying roundhouse kicks. I'm like, dang, I didn't know Halle Berry could do this. Wow. So, I am a little bit excited for this film. Knowing that Valentina is gonna be the final boss of this. Halle Berry had a good showcase in the John Wick movie. And in this movie, to which she is writing, directing, producing, and starring, the movie Bruised by Halle Berry, this might be a real fun one. That's Valentina Shevchenko, the current flyweight champion, the most consistent champion among all women's champions. I'm going to be right back. This is Arnel De Leon, coming right back with some more MMA news after the break.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And we are back. So, a fight that I think is also a Fight of the Year candidates that you guys should all look out for. It's a great women's fight. It is Julia Stolienko versus Lisa Versosa from Invicta FC Phoenix Series 3. It was there was a tournament that was happening to which they were looking for the next contender for the bantamweight title. The bantamweight title was vacant, so the main event was Julia Stolienko versus Lisa Versosa, and it's very similar in a lot of ways to the Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk fights. Similar in the fact that it involved two women who absolutely did not care about their well-being as they went into this fight, and just traded shots the entire day. Like you saw Joanna's face by the end of it, though. Like, she had that giant swole, and she looked very different from how she was. In this fight, Stolienko versus Versosa in Invicta, this has to be one of the most bloodiest fights I've ever seen. And I'm not saying that being bloody is a standard of good quality fighting here, but it's an insane fight between two individuals who are just constantly throwing bombs. The first thing to happen, it's a 5-round fight. So the first thing that happened in this fight immediately was Stolienko going for 3 Superman punches. And so the first round was Stolienko. The commentator team was building up as this is a stylistic fight. Can the ground-based fighter Stolienko defeat the strike-based fighter Lisa Versosa? And Stolienko and Versosa would actually trade off submission attempts at each other. They would go for takedowns. They would try to overwhelm each other with high-volume strikes, and then go for takedowns, go for submission holds. And then at the beginning of the second round, so round 1 is a little bit of striking, a little bit of submissions, a little bit of wrestling happening here, some clinch battling, and then rounds 2 through 5 was nothing but just them landing jabs at each other, hooks and uppercuts, absolutely destroying each other. There was an image out on Twitter, I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but there was an image that was on Twitter where it's like, here's how the fight looked at round 1. You see these two women. The floor, like the mat is all clean and stuff. It's kind of whitish blue. There's a star down the middle. It looks brown. And then by the end of the 5th round, both these women's faces are all like it's as if they came from a horror movie. Like Lisa Versosa, the camera zooms in on her in between rounds, and even after like the cut team like worked on her face and she looked a little bit cleaner, the commentary team were like, dang, she looks like someone cut her with an axe or with a knife, and like, it was one of the more insane fights I've ever seen, and the fact that this fight happened in the same night as Joanna versus Weili Zhang is insane. I can't really go that much into detail about this fight, even though like I wrote notes about this fight. It's just like, there's nothing really to it, in a sense of like, let's see which girl here can eke out and have the most highest form of durability, because it could have gone either way. Stolienko won because she won with the better, because she did better combinations, honestly. She was going for like jabs, hooks, straights, uppercuts. She was also going for some knees. She was going for some clinch battling, did some body shots. While Lisa Versosa, all what she did for the most part was lay like jab, 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 jab. Now these are hard hitting jabs, and multiple times throughout the fights, Versosa would hit Stolienko so hard that Stolienko's mouth guard would fall off. And it was very scary, because if your mouth guard falls off and the referee isn't saying stop the fight still continues on. So there were moments where Versosa would go punch Stolienko's mouth guard would fall off, and then there would be this awkward like second and a half of Stolienko thinking, should I bend over, grab the mouth guard, put in my mouth, because the referee isn't stopping that. And so you can see from Lisa Versosa's face, actually, she's like, you know what? As she's trying to go to mouth guard, I can uppercut her, I can kick her in the head, I can go for an elbow to the face. Like, there were many instances in which this fight could have gone really dirty than it already was. And I respect Lisa Versosa for looking at Stolienko, having her mouth guard fall up, and she's like, you know what? It's fine. Like, you can go pick up your mouth guard, and then you can put it in your mouth, and then we'll continue fighting. Now, by the 5th round, when it happened constantly again, Versosa was kind of desperate, and she's like, oh man, your mouth guard fall off again, why? And then she just aimed in. Stolienko had to go grab her mouth guard, put it back in her mouth, and it was this constant, like, fighting. It was bam, 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 bam. Two people constantly hitting each other. The concept of blocking and putting your arms up didn't really become that much of a thing. Stolienko was constantly hitting leg kicks onto Lisa Versosa, and Lisa Versosa, just like a zombie, would no-sell it. She would block some shots, but then again, she would take like 3 clean shots to the face, first round, and she would not she would barely stumble. She would get hit with a head kick, and then her response was her just go forward and try to aim for some quick elbows. It was insane. It was, I'm looking online here what other people's viewpoints and opinions of this match, though. It's currently a Fight of the Year candidate. And when I look at this fight, I don't know. Is it Fight of the Year candidate? Take a look. So once again, the fight is Julia Stolienko versus Lisa Versosa. Is it really Fight of the Year? Because now I'm thinking about other fights that have happened this year and the concept of what makes a good fight. A lot of would say Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk was a great fight because it was 2 women going right at it. Stolienko versus Lisa Versosa is considered a Fight of the Year candidate because it was 2 girls going at it, barely blocking, very little clinch game, very little wrestling happening actually, very little of people trying to calculate and like go through like, okay, what's the best route for me to go and win this fight? Instead, those 2 fights involve like 4 women coming in front of each other and hitting each other as hard as they possibly can, which is the exact opposite of, of Adesanya versus Yoel Romero. And the reason I'm bringing up that fight again was because that fight had a lot of expectations, and generally, the general consensus is that that fight is not good, with the exception of Joe Rogan saying that there's no such thing as a bad fight, unless the 2 fighters who are fighting poorly, are not good in the first place, which I heavily disagree with. The concept of what makes a good fight. I would put the Weili Zhang versus Joanna fight over Stolienko versus Versosa. Once again, you guys should look for it. The fight is on YouTube. I would put the UFC fight higher than the Invicta fight, off the merit that even by the 5th round there was a sound strategy involved through all 5 rounds. Like you can it was easy. It was Weili Zhang trying to close at the distance, trying to limit the distance between her and Joanna Jędrzejczyk, while Joanna Jędrzejczyk was aiming for high volume strikes, going for leg kicks, body kicks, and headshots, while Weili Zhang, the only time she'd ever go for a leg shot would be when she's trying to keep distance, or she's trying to go and pursue her attacker, but she's never going to use it in a combination, unlike Joanna, who does use it in a combination. And, Joanna mostly emphasizes a lot on the idea that, she's gonna go for jabs, high volume striking, and if she does go for a clinch game, she's gonna go for body shots immediately compared to Weili Zhang. If she does go for a clinch game, she's gonna go for elbows and strikes to the head. There was strategy involved in the Weili Zhang Joanna fights. In stark contrast to Stolienko versus Lisa Versosa, I'm not saying there's no strategy in this Invicta fight. What I'm arguing is that this fight wasn't as strategic, or wasn't as technical pace, because by the 4th and 5th round, it stopped being like, cause this is bantamweight. The weight difference isn't all that significant really much. It a little is, but the weight difference isn't all that much. I can expect the same level of speed here. The same level of speed and technical striking ability in boxing, what I saw from this match versus the UFC fight, is very, very low. I'm comparing I'm comparing Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Weili Zhang, like high top tier elite fighters, versus Invicta fighters who are really good also, but in terms of the general consensus on their level of how good they are and how skilled they are, is much lower than that of the UFC fighters. So, Stolienko Versosa, if you want to see 2 women gonna go and hit each other in the head as much as they can, as hard as they can, for 30 minutes, then this is definitely your fight. This is the same type of fight that's like really appealing for like Forrest Griffin versus Stefan Bonner. If you're not into the whole chess game aspect of MMA fighting and you just want to see two people beat each other up hard, then this is definitely a fight you guys should look out for. Once again, it's Julia Stolienko versus Lisa Versosa. It's considered a fight of the year candidate. It's one of those bloodiest fights I've ever seen. It's two women absolutely destroying each other. After the short break, we'll be looking into an interesting editorial by Ultimate Fighter 26 finalist, fighter, and nerd, Roxanne Modafferi. This is Arnel De Leon, and you're listening to the GSMc Women's MMA Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMc Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMcpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. This is Arnel De Leon, and I'll be reading an editorial here written by and about UFC fighter Roxanne Modafferi. It is titled, From Power Rangers to Black Belt, The Happy Warrior's Long Jiu-Jitsu Journey. Roxanne Modafferi takes fans on her long, complex journey to earning her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So, to those of you who don't know Roxanne Modafferi, she was a finalist. Actually, she's been in two Ultimate Fighters. I think she was in Ultimate Fighter 17, and then she returned for Ultimate Fighter 26, to which she was competing for the inaugural Women's Flyweight belt, which was later won by Nico Montano. Modafferi won her first two fights, and then she lost her third fight, but because of an issue involving the third fighter who wasn't able to make it to the finals, Modafferi replaced her and got her way into the finals to becoming possibly the first ever UFC Women's Flyweight champion, which was won by Nico Montano. Since then, she's kind of had a win-loss record. Modafferi, in my personal viewpoint, isn't gonna go far in terms of the rankings or in the championship pedigree in the UFC, but she has a job. She has a job, and I think she has job safety and job security in the UFC, considering the fact that she's A, a fun fighter to watch, B, she's a very wholesome person, and C, it's not hard to know why she is very likable, because in a time when everyone's trying to be like serious or the baddest bee in the world, she's this dorky girl who's into MMA fighting and comic books and manga and superheroes and cosplaying anime stuff. Her personality just doesn't fit in with what a lot of people are trying to do when they get into MMA or get into UFC. People are trying way too hard. People like Kevin Lee are trying way too hard to come across as a certain way, and not like they're like the toughest person in the entire room. Don't mess with them. Kind of like Michael Chiesa. But I'll be reading her editorial that she wrote. The first thing you see about her is that she's wearing the red Power Ranger outfit, the classic red Power Ranger outfit from the original show. And then there's a drawing of her looking like a Valkyrie while she's wearing her glasses, but she has like long blonde hair with like this weird helmet on, shaped from Dungeons and Dragons. It's very interesting. It's pretty wholesome, I'll tell you that. So I'll be reading this editorial and provide my own insights on this. And in the end, I hope you guys enjoy this. So let's go at it. I loved team sports as a kid, especially soccer. My dad also loved soccer, so from the time I could run, we were kicking around a soccer ball. One day when I was 12 or 13, I went over to my mom after an episode of the Power Rangers TV show had finished. Mom, I said, can I do martial arts? I want to learn to fight and beat up the bad guys too. Okay, she said, and did some researching, probably the phone book. How about Taekwondo? Okay, so here's the thing. Let me give you something personal about me. I did martial arts as a kid for the exact same reasons Madaffery is, which is kind of really dumb if you think about it, in that I'm a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z. I'm a huge fan of Bruce Lee movies. I like Power Rangers. Anything that involves karate or kung fu stuff, I wanted to train so I can be like those guys, because I was often bullied when I was a kid, and I did some taekwondo. And after I did some taekwondo, I then did some boxing, which led me to do some football and basketball and a bunch of other sports. And I think that's one reason why a lot of people enjoy Israel Adesanya. It's because I think there's a lot of people who are in that same position as Madaffery and Adesanya, and that they got into like MMA fighting, and they got into sports and professional fighting because they were fans of like these fictional shows or celebrities or cartoon shows or live action like karate shows or movies that are all about kung fu. And I know like it's like fake martial arts. I know it's a thing that fake martial arts is a bad thing. It is a bad thing. You should avoid McDojos if you can. But there's nothing wrong wanting to do martial arts, real martial arts, if you were a fan of something nerdy or dorky. I joined a studio in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. I loved it. I learned to punch, kick, spin kick, jump kick, and break wooden boards. I memorized forms and rose in the ranks. I got different colored belts. I think my mom thought it had something to do with me wanting to get emotions out because my parents were going through a divorce, but that wasn't. 2 words. Power Rangers. After about a year, the Academy started to host fundraisers to raise money. I'm not sure what was going on, but it was weird because I couldn't get my next promotion unless I sold a certain number of pizzas. Mom, I said, I don't want to sell pizzas. Okay, so when I did Taekwondo, they made us sell chocolate bars for some reason, for a fundraiser. And if you sold enough chocolate bars, you get a promotion. You get a new belt. That was weird. So, okay, Mom said, not wanting to sell pizzas either and likely grabbing the phone book again. How about Kempo Karate? Sure. Cool. Maybe I can try all kinds of martial arts, I said. Then my dad moved to Boston, so my mom moved to Lenox, Massachusetts, so I could be closer to him. Thank goodness, because my middle school classmates were meanies. Along the way, we spent the summer in Amsterdam, New York, and dang, you travel a lot as a kid. Lucky you. I wanted to do martial arts. Good old mom research. There's a Uheyo Ryo school in town. It's Okinawan Karate. Dang, so you learned Taekwondo and Karate? And Kenpo also? Dang. No. She learned Okinawan. She learned Okinawan Karate, which is different from Kenpo, because Kenpo is like, depending on who you talk to, actually isn't all that impressive. I was so excited to dabble in yet another martial arts, even if it was only for a short while. Upon moving to Lenox, there was no Kenpo studio, so we joined another Taekwondo school. They were nice, but made me start from white belt, which I didn't think was fair. I was really bored. Then one day I started, and Then one day I had a startling epiphany. I woke up and didn't want to do it anymore. I said, Mom, I don't want to hit anybody anymore. It's morally wrong. I want to do a martial arts that doesn't involve hitting. Okay, said my poor mother, probably lunging up for the phone book. How about judo, she suggested. Sure. I know kids who stopped doing sports when they're 14, 15 years old, or when they're sophomores in high school, off the basis that they have this like weird epiphany, just like her. They're like, you know what? I don't want to be a football player. You know what? I don't want to play violin. Or you know what? I don't want to, do, like baseball or basketball. I want to be something like, it's like random, like, I want to be an artist, or I want to be a painter, or I want to go be a construction worker, or I want to focus my time in academia so I can become a computer engineer. So she's having this weird epiphany at 15, 14 years old. She's like, you know what? I don't want to do karate, even though I've been doing it. Hitting people is wrong. Judo became my favorite. You grab somebody in their gi, jerk them around to break their balance, and then throw them on their back. Depending on how cleanly you threw them, you could win immediately, or get half a point and then have them pin. We'll have to pin them for 20 seconds to win. I wasn't naturally athletic or strong, so using balance and leverage worked well for me. So she got her high school friends into it. I made close friends in my dojo. The only time I took time off was for soccer reason, because it was too tiring to do both. Then something life-changing happened. I was 17 and a half, a senior in high school. One day, while I was competing in a judo tournament, I got pinned on my shoulders. I was squirming this way and out, desperately trying to get out of the hold down. I gave a mighty twist, and something happened in my back. I felt excruciating pain. I didn't know it at the time, but I think I either herniated something, tore something, or did something to screw up my disc. Ouch. Obviously, I lost, I limped home, and could barely walk the rest of the week. It was bad. I think soccer season had just started. Our athletics team had always kind of sucked, but finally that year, I made varsity. Good for you. And we were good. I mean, really good. We were winning our games and even beat Wakana. Nobody beat Wakana. So the first time Madafri got exposed to MMA/UFC would be UFC 31, and she noted Matt Serra fighting Shoni Carter, Randy Couture versus Pedro Rizzo, and Carlos Newton versus Pat Miletich. She got really excited about that, and then from that point on, she dedicated more time into jiu-jitsu and judo. And so it's funny. So at 14, 15 years old, she was like, you know what? Fighting is wrong. And then by 17 and a half years old, when she's about to graduate through high school, after going through an injury, she's like, you know what? I want to dedicate more time into Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, judo. And then she started enrolling into more kickboxing classes, more boxing classes. Madafri says that she's super influenced by the Japanese anime Dragon Ball Z. She says the characters in the show train martial arts so hard, almost desperately, to defeat their enemies, powering up and getting stronger and stronger. And so after 19 years of practicing jiu-jitsu and 22 years of learning how to be a martial artist, she finally gets her black belt. That right there is a wholesome story, which I needed after watching 4 women in 2 different fights fight in a cage and absolutely obliterate each other's face. So thank you, Madafri, for writing the editorial, and it was a nice read. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps up. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Women's Mixed Martial Arts Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.